Here at Gundam Planet, we're all about trying things that are completely different, and that's why you can hear me, but you can't see me. Now, I know a lot of you watch our videos just to see what cool shirt I'm wearing this time, but you'll just have to settle for this picture in the top right. Sorry about that. In any event, we're doing this a new way because not only would the unboxing for a perfect grade be completely unnecessary, but the finished product would be way too big and also way too detailed to properly show without a macro lens, so there's really no point in doing those far away shots that we always do. There are something like 50 runners in here, and like 10 minutes of footage would get nothing of substance aside from a few key points, which I'll just say now anyway. The blades for the weapons are in plated plastic similar to that of the Shiki 2.0. The hands are swappable rather than the pre-assembled plasma welded hands that traditionally come with perfect grades. The belt parts that are usually pretty flimsy and really annoying on the Exia kits are extremely solid this time around. The colors on the kit are reminiscent of the designer color kits and have a very nice muted look. And the markings on this kit, unfortunately, they're all Tetron seals and they're not water slides. So, yikes on the last one. Before I get really into it, I should note that this is a review of the LED version, so it will deal with aspects of both kits. The non-LED version is $150 less, which is also something to keep in mind along the way, and I'll do my best to mention this whenever it's relevant. Lastly, the way that Bandai has you assemble this kit is by building the frame in its entirety first, and then by layering the armor on top of that once it's done. For this reason, that's also how I'm going to tackle this review. So, here we go. When starting the build, the first thing I notice is how incredibly dense and heavy the plastic feels. It's all extremely solid, but it's also easy to work with. Nub marks aren't a problem, despite the fact that the display stand arms were all attached at like 50 different places. Since I'm already talking about the display stand, assembling that thing was extremely tedious, since you have to feed two individual cables from the battery pack of varying lengths through exact channels and at specified spacing in the articulated base arm. So there's actually like little diagrams in the manual that say, oh, put it this far away, put it this far away. And that was kind of annoying. But if you're not building the LED version, the stand is going to take you about 30 seconds. It's going to go together like Duplos because it's like 8 parts. A neat thing about the display stand is that it can store literally every accessory, which includes the extra hands that aren't on the kit, in the little grooves underneath it. Now, this might not be ideal for retrieving them if the Exia is on the base, but I think it's a really good trade-off not to have every spare accessory visible and next to the suit like it was in the Unicorn. The first step in the manual is the torso, but I'm telling you that is and will always be stupid. Build the weapons and accessories first. 100% of GP adjacent humans agree that this is the best way to go. And this is especially true when you have to build 2 hands full of individually articulated fingers on top of 8 other fixed hands. More on that later. Now, once you do the right thing and build all the accessories, you'll move on to the torso, which is coincidentally where you'll have the most difficulty with the LED. Because the arms and the legs are all worked through channels and in fixed orientations, but the torso actually has to establish the roots that the arms and legs meet up with. Now, like while building, you'll definitely want to remove all the parts from the sprues and clean the nubs completely before even starting a step at all. Because many of the steps involve holding LED wiring in place while assembling components. So if you typically I know some people like to cut out as they go, but it's going to leave you with a lot of freely swinging and pretty easy to reverse pieces just kind of literally hanging on wires. I consider myself pretty well versed in all manner of assembly required nightmares, and I even got a couple steps backward by accident. The Gion Drive also shares this fun feature because it's almost perfectly symmetrical, but some of the pieces are they're just slightly different, so you really got to pay attention in the torso. It's also worth mentioning that the final step in the torso frame assembly, which is attaching the waist to the upper torso, requires some extra attention. The 2 pieces you have to attach take a lot of extra convincing to go together. I had the frame completely put together and I was like, why is this thing wobbling so much? And when I noticed and tried to fix it, I was worried that I had done something wrong and there was too much lengths of cable that I was pinching, or if I had put a piece on backwards or something. I tried about like 4 or 5 different times, and finally when I got it to go together, I realized I just hadn't been pushing the 2 pieces together hard enough. So if you find that the upper and lower half of your kit really like to come apart once you put it together, particularly when it's on the stand, you probably just did the same thing I did. Now, the limbs are much more straightforward, and Bandai does the cool thing of outlining which steps can be completed 2 times right at the outset of each, so you can get those out of the way quickly. The good news is that nothing in the arms or legs gave me any trouble, or even sticks out in my mind as inconvenient. But the bad news is I have nothing of substance to say about the construction as a result of that. The one thing I do remember, although not related to the construction, is the stickers on the transparent parts of Exia's joints. The stickers go on the inside of the plastic, which is concave, so you'll most likely get air bubbles when you first put them down. Now, if you couple that with the fact that they're engineered to fit exactly centered in the circle, and you're going to have a hard time even with the frames of reference provided by the little indents in the designs to get them centered and matched up perfectly. Once the sticker's on, you just need to make sure to rub over them with pressure. You can use, if you have, I know one of my friends who builds has those cloth gloves. If you have a paper towel or something, just rub it over so you don't get thumbprints on the clear parts, because that's also annoying. But just put pressure on it to eliminate any bubbles before you put it together, because you'll definitely be able to see the bubbles when you turn on the LED if you don't do that. Now, if you're not building the LED version, the last point is the main difference, because not only will you have to put the transparent Tetron seal on, but you'll also have to put a metallic foil sticker behind that, much like you did if you built the new Gundam Verkop. These stickers will make any room lighting reflect back through the green, which gives it the appearance of illumination, which is used in the GN shield of both versions, and I have to say, it looks really good. I'm impressed. The last thing you'll assemble is the head, which goes together just fine, and it looks kind of like one of those 1950s movies renditions of a Martian. I had no idea the Exia's head frame was so weird until I was building this, so the more you know, or whatever. Now, real quick, back to the hands. They're one of the last things that you're supposed to do on the frame, but I am begging you, please build them first. Each hand has at the very least 4 parts, and the individually articulated ones have more than 20. Trust me, you do not want to be doing this smack in the middle of building this great robot. Pieces are just tiny and annoying, and they have these minuscule differences that you need to keep track of in the lengths and the angles of the fingertip, and just get it done first. Oh my gosh. Now that the hard part is done, all you have to do is layer the armor on, which I can only describe as an absolute dream. I've never assembled a model kit that seemed like it was actively trying to help me until this one. Pieces fit exactly where they should, and I don't mean that in a you have to be extremely precise when building kind of way. I mean, like, more than one time I was assembling a leg piece and I wasn't exactly sure how the pegs had to align, and it seemed like the pieces just did it for me. It was pretty wild. So now that it's together, what do we have? Now, if you're an LED owner, you'll probably just want to leave this thing hooked into the stand for battery power, but let's address everyone else first and do something different. We're going to take it off the stand and check out the sturdiness, articulation, and poseability. A lot of the people who ask about this kit have the same thing in mind, those weak, awful Exia Master Grade ankles. The good news is that's just a complete non-issue here. Even when posing without the stand, the ankles are never a problem. Most of the accessories are also pretty light, so you won't have any balance issues even when the kit is freestanding. That said, I definitely wouldn't recommend keeping this displayed on a shelf without a stand, because even the sturdiest kits wobble over time, and the last thing you want is this thing taking a dive. You can achieve very dynamic stand-free poses, because I know some of you really like to display kits kneeling for some reason, and the only time you'll ever really need to have to work with anything is when you're posing with the GN sword deployed, because the added length understandably creates balance issues once you have that. It's when this sword is equipped that you'll also notice some of the wider stances can't be supported by the joints connecting the thighs to the waist, so if you want to do that, you'll just have to use the stand. At the end of the day, I honestly don't think this kit was designed to be posed without the stand like the Perfect Grade Astray Red frame was, because that was a much bulkier, but also much less posable kit. So you're probably just best off to just leave this on the stand, because thank goodness they included it. So now that's out of the way, throw that thing back on there. As I mentioned, it's extremely dynamic and expressive. Armor panels articulate and open to create particularly stark lines on both torso and legs, allowing you to make this look unlike literally any other Exia kit, even the real grade. Honestly, I didn't even feel this strongly about the uniqueness of the PG Unicorn, which until this point I've been telling people is the best kit Bandai's ever made. Just look at the visual flair created by opening some of these panels. When it comes to function, the kit is also stellar. I was a little worried about the necessity of hand swapping when it came to weapons, but it's actually way better this way. Each weapon has a specific hand that goes with it, and both left and right options are included for all of them, so you even have the option of just leaving the hands attached to the weapons when you're not using them. The hands also change incredibly smoothly because they're not on a ball joint like most hands. It seems like it's like maybe a 4 or 5 millimeter peg, I can't really tell, and it just slides right into a polycap, so it just goes in rather than having to pop in and out like is really annoying with, you know, some master grades, and like if you deal with action figures, you know what a pain ball joints can be. I also really can't complain about the weapons, which feature all 7 swords and the shield. The silver plating on these looks incredible. I think it's better than the ignition mode. Of course, that's up to your preference, whether you like the plated or this one. Like I said, it's like the Shiki 2.0. And they all stay in the hands or on the arm, in the case of the GN sword, extremely well. The GN shield even features an expanding gimmick that allows you to display it in its traditional closed state or with the exposed green effect part, which looks fantastic and it functions really well. It reminds me of the Tall Geese booster, the way that you pull the ends. The GN blades can also easily attach to the ball joints on the outside of the upper leg, which was a big problem in the Master Grade that Bandai absolutely fixed. The GN saber hilts also go in their traditional locations without issue, and even the massive GN sword stays very well in the hands and attaches to the arm without any problem. In short, everything here is implemented way better than it ever has been. Now, the last note on posing that I want to make is that this is our favorite pose here at Gundam Planet. You'll notice how wide all the limbs are and how far the weapon is from the kit's center of gravity, and it just looks really incredible. But I actually didn't pose this specifically for the video. We posed this thing 3 weeks ago when I first built the model, and it's been posed like that in our freezing cold warehouse ever since then, during some of the coldest temperatures that New Jersey has ever had. And this thing didn't sag or droop or change even a little bit in that entire time, which is possibly the best thing I could say about this kit. Even the PG Strike Freedom that we've had on display here has to have twist ties holding up the Dragoons because the cold has made them sag so much. So the kit itself is great, but I haven't talked about the LED, so what about that? It's really sick. It's the only kit that exists with a color changing LED, and it has some really neat features. For one, it doesn't just light up, it actually has a sequence, and when you first turn it on, it actually looks like the Gion Drive is like spinning up to speed, which is nuts. And then if you hit the button again, it activates in a normal mode, which just makes all the lighting points light up blue, which, you know, they could have really just called it a day and done that, but they didn't. If you hit it again, it turns into this mode, I think the Bandai calls it like compression or collection or something like that, but it alternates between pink and blue. And then if you hit it one more time, it does a full display in Trans Am mode, which I think looks really neat. I didn't think I'd be crazy about it because Trans Am is whatever to me, but it actually might have turned out to be my favorite. And then if you hit the button once more, it all fades to red for like a split second and then turns off completely. So the LEDs look incredible, and whenever anyone sees this kit in the store, they all have decided to save up for the LED version. It does take 4 AA batteries, which is a lot. In all honesty, I prefer this to the watch batteries because they're probably going to last a really long time, and there's also an auto off function that turns them off after a period of activity. So the question you have to ask yourself is, will I turn this thing on enough for it to justify the extra spending? And I'd love to give you an answer for that, but it's something that you have to figure out for yourself. At the end of the day, if we're operating on a traditional numbering scale, I would give this solid, enthusiastic 10 out of 10. It's the new thing I'm going to tell people is the best kit Bandai's ever made, even if it didn't face the same set of challenges the Unicorn did with maintaining a transformation gimmick. Side note, maybe transforming gimmicks are more trouble than they're worth. Food for thought? V2, Verka, anyone? But what really sets this apart from all the other PGs is that I would wholeheartedly recommend this over any other version of the suit with or without the LED. For the record, I would do the same thing with the Unicorn, but that one isn't as unique as this. The PG Unicorn simply perfected the mobile suit by eliminating all of the other existing model kit's issues. The thing with the Exia is that it's not just the best version, it's also the most interesting, both visually and functionally. To be honest, I think, and I'll probably be proven wrong almost instantly somehow, I think that Bandai has nailed down the perfect grade. Until the Unicorn, all of them had weird little missteps, like not including stands, or balance issues, or just aging technology, like with the Mark II being so top-heavy. And now, 3 times if you count the Banshee Norn as its own standalone, they've really knocked it out of the park. I know a lot of people are mad that the LED can't be bought separately for this thing, but honestly, it makes a lot of sense. There's no way that you can build this entire kit without it, and then go back after the fact and put it in. You'd have to disassemble literally the entire model kit, which is just not plausible. Giving people the choice up front is definitely the way to go, and let's be honest, you already know which one you're leaning toward anyway. Plus, it doesn't hurt to give a $200 to $350 investment a little extra thought beforehand. So yes, I love it. It actually is a kit befitting of the 10th anniversary of Gundam 00, one of my favorite Gundam series, but that doesn't mean that I'm going to forgive the rest of the celebration amounting to 5 variations of small bear guys with signs that say, I'm gonna shoot 'em up. Thank you all so much for watching, and please let us know in the comments what you thought of the new format. It's something that if you'd like to see more of, we'd be happy to give it some more tries and some more time to perfecting it in the future. You can also feel free to ask me any questions you might still have that I didn't address about the kit, and I'll do my best to respond to all of them. Thank you again, and we will see you next time.